Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the latest edition of Wow Lynch Wow, dedicated to filmmaker David Lynch and inspired by the triumphant return of Twin Peaks. A friendly warning to everyone who isn't caught up on all 10 episodes of the new Twin Peaks. There will be spoilers and they will begin shortly. Viewers and listeners be warned. Part 10 starts on Richard Horne. He pulls up to an old trailer in a broken down vehicle, and the trailer is occupied by our favorite pie-loving resident, Miriam. She warns Richard to stay away, that she already informed the cops he was the one who killed the boy in the hit and run. She also mentions she wrote a letter to Sheriff Truman, and when Richard discovers the letter was sent today, he breaks in and attacks Miriam in her trailer. Richard calls Chad and demands he intercept the letter, and Miriam's a bloody mess, but she still appears to be breathing. Carl is singing peacefully and playing a little guitar. He's interrupted by a red coffee mug flying through a trailer window. His reaction suggests he's seen similar domestic disputes from this trailer before. It's scumbag Steven and his gullible wife Becky. Steven is intimidating and threatening Becky, and things get a little physical. Steven looks as if he's suffering from a serious case of withdrawal. One of the casino bosses, Rodney, is working at home, and one of his showgirl lady friends is trying to whack a fly, and she ends up accidentally smacking the boss across the face with a remote. Dougie is being checked out at a doctor's office with Janie E. She mentions again that he missed Sonny Jim's birthday on his 3-day bender, but Dougie is in very good health, and he's lost an awful lot of weight. Janie E. stares admiringly at her husband's physique, as if she just now realized her husband's physique has undergone a radical transformation. Interestingly, there was no mention of the bullet wound on Cooper, which leads me to guess that however Dougie was manufactured, that the wound was somehow included in this process. We see the casino bosses, the Mitchum brothers, and they're hanging out with their trio of showgirls, who not only seem to follow them everywhere, but are always dressed in the same attire. The one showgirl is rather upset about the fiasco fly swatting incident, and Ike's arrest appears on the local news. The Mitchum brothers call him an asshole, and they seem pleased that he tripped himself up. Then they see Dougie and Janie E., Ike's most recent attack survivors. Turns out their mysterious Mr. Jones really was Dougie Jones after all. Janie E. is giving Cooper that special look as he's munching down on some chocolate cake. She's all types of exuding the come hither vibe, and she asks if he finds her attractive as he continues enjoying his cake. Then we see Janie E. riding Coop like a cowgirl as his arms are helplessly flopping about like a muppet. Janie E. really seems to be enjoying herself, and she begins screaming so loudly that she wakes up a frightened Sonny Jim. Cooper looks awfully pleased by what just happened. Janie E. and Cooper then exchange I love yous, and I think this is important, and I'll touch on this more in a little bit. Jacoby is fired up, and he's cursing up a storm for his audience. Nadine listens attentively. She's apparently inside her business, run silent, run drapes, with a golden shovel proudly on display. There are drapes moving around inside the building, and Nadine is awfully fond of the good Dr. Jacoby. Janie E. sends Sonny Jim off to the car, and she's still very lovey-dovey with Cooper. She really did have a wonderful night with Cooper, and appears to have fallen in love for the first time all over again. Jerry is stuck in the woods with no service, apparently still having all types of trouble with his foot. He says, "You can't fool me. I've been here before." I'm getting the impression that this isn't Jerry's first rodeo here. Lucy is suspicious when she sees Chad lurking around. Chad feeds her a line of bullshit, and tries to hoodwink her, but he grossly underestimates her in the process. Chad gets the mail from the mailman, and he sorts through the letters looking for the one from Miriam. Lucy and the mailman both watch on suspiciously. Lucy sees him pocket the letter. He passes Lucy again, thinking he's got one over on her, but what Chad doesn't realize is that Lucy is sometimes more than she seems. Lucy is on to Chad. Richard is driving. He gets the text that Chad intercepted the letter. Johnny Horn is bandaged up and restrained with a weird-looking toy talking in front of him. Richard comes to visit Sylvia, his grandmother. So now we know for certain that Richard is indeed our beloved Audrey's son. Richard asks Sylvia for money, and she tells him to get the hell out of there. Johnny's chair tips over, and his creepy toy continues asking Johnny how he is today. Richard assaults his grandmother and asks for the safe combination. He eventually gets it from her. Johnny is helplessly tied up, and Sylvia watches on as Richard steals everything in sight. Richard calls his grandmother a nasty name, and Sylvia is crying and crawls over to her son, Johnny. Duncan finds out the cops nabbed Ike. He wants Tony to convince the Mitchum brothers that Dougie is the culprit behind their insurance scam woes. Albert is on a date with the morgue lady Constance. Tammy and Cole are amused by this. Tony enters the casino. The Mitchum brothers see him on the screen and they order Candy to bring him there. But Candy's acting a bit spaced out and peculiar. Candy and Tony eventually return to the room, and Tony tells the Mitchum brothers that Dougie Jones is the enemy who screwed up their claim. The Mitchum brothers return home with their trio of showgirls, and they're none too happy about this Dougie Jones guy. Gordon Cole draws an illustration of two trees on top of some kind of creature with an arm reaching out to it. A knock at the door. Cole answers the door, and he sees a vision of Laura Palmer. But the vision dissipates quickly, and Albert is at the door. Albert and Cole are on to Diane. Cole mentions he knew from the moment he hugged her. They intercepted her text and deducted it must have come from Bad Coop. Tammy comes in. She has pictures of Bad Coop by the glass box. This is really something. A lot of pieces are now tying together. Ben hears news of his grandson's attack on Sylvia, and the two of them argue over whether Ben will compensate her financially. The log lady calls Hawk. She talks of electricity humming in the mountains and the rivers. She tells Hawk that the Truman brothers are both true men, and that he can trust the other good ones that have been with him, presumably Andy and Lucy. She gives him many other cryptic messages, concluding with the most cryptic of them all, when she tells Hawk, Laura is the one. And part 10 ended on a powerful music number from Rebecca Del Rio. So with part 10, the big takeaways for me are, number 1, Richard and Steven are both the low-life scumbags I assumed they were from my initial reactions. Richard was already an irredeemable character in my eyes, so throwing in the murder, or attempted murder, of Miriam, that came as no surprise. But beating up his own grandmother for money, that just amplified the fact that this guy is a piece of shit. And Steven? Well, the evidence does not yet suggest he's as bad as Richard. I once thought he may have been a few steps up from Leo, but that gap is quickly closing. Number 2, it seems to me that it was confirmed that Diane is indeed in cahoots with Bad Coop. If she's not in cahoots with him, she's definitely hiding something important from Albert and Cole. But it definitely now appears that Diane is indeed working on behalf of Bad Coop. Number 3, Janie E. and Cooper. There's some real important stuff happening here, I think. Let's remember that when we first saw Janie E., she was absolutely furious with the man she believed to be Dougie. He had the audacity to miss Sonny Jim's birthday, and he'd been missing in action for 3 days, a point that was reiterated again at the doctor's office. It wasn't until she found the money that her attitude initially changed, and she seemed to tolerate Dougie sort of out of a sense of duty. But now, Janie E. seems to have fallen in love with Dougie, either fallen in love with him all over again, or perhaps fallen in love with him for the first time in earnest. This greatly raises the stakes of the dynamics between her and Cooper. She is no longer just exhibiting a sense of loyalty to Dougie the way she's been in recent episodes. She's now in love with another man entirely, Special Agent Dale Cooper. And on some level, I'm inclined to believe that Janie E. will soon realize that Cooper is not the Dougie she married. Number 4. Audrey Horne must be coming soon. We now have definite confirmation that Richard is her son. He's not the son of that poor guy having foot issues in the woods. Now that Richard attacked and robbed Sylvia, and Ben got word of all this, Audrey should be quick to follow. I expect to see Audrey Horne very soon. Number 5. I think the most important thing that came out of Part 10 involves Gordon Cole. He's got a glass of wine and some type of red device, and he's creating this drawing that, if we flip it over to look at it, we see some kind of creature with 2 trees on top of it, and what appears to be an arm reaching towards the trees. Is that a walking log? Is that the log lady's log? If that's a log with the arm and its doppelganger in a previous version of the arm reaching out, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, but whatever it is, Cole sees an image of Laura Palmer shortly after this when he answers the door. It almost appears as if Gordon Cole is able to receive transmissions from weird places, much like the log lady's log. Both of them seem to have received a message regarding Laura Palmer, but this throws everything we know about Cole into question. We don't really know what Cole actually knows in terms of Blue Rose cases, but he definitely seems to be able to perceive things outside the ordinary, and I don't think we had any evidence of this prior to Part 10. So what the hell does he know? And how long has he known it? The plot thickens indeed. I thought Part 10 was another powerhouse episode, and they really just seem to be getting better and better as we go. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm itching for Part 11. I'm just itching to see Part 11. Can't wait. That's all I got. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you very much, and have a great night.